Hello, Desiree Duvernay with another course for you. This is going to be a course on sex hormones, different ideas about what makes us human beings, how we think, the sexual experience, as we're going to be investigating the different types of hormones that initiate sex and keep sex going and make us what we are. So I hope that this little tape will help to teach you a little bit more about who you are and why you do the things that you do and why the people around you do the things that they do. So let's watch about sex investigated.
15 years ago, we couldn't have studied love this way. Now we can. We can look into the brain and see which parts become active and really begin to understand the brain networks that we all experience when we're madly in love.
First, the team records blood flow through the brain as the subject gazes at a neutral image. Then they change the picture to a photo of the subject's lover and measure the blood flow once again. They find that men react differently to women. Men are turned on visually, while women are more interested in character.
Among our male subjects, we found more activity in a brain region associated with the integration of visual stimuli. And in our female subjects, we found more activity in brain regions associated with memory recall.
Of course, we've known for generations that men seek visual stimulation when it comes to sex. Striptease is one of the oldest professions. For men, visual arousal stimuli are vitally important, and they activate the brain more in men than they do in women.
Women do like to look, but men like to look more. And I think this is for a very profoundly powerful Darwinian reason.
So what is that reason? What exactly are men looking for?
The primary turn-on has been found that for men like what they see. You see, it's what they see. So a woman needs to try to be pretty, try to capture, because men like to see round objects. Blonde hair, more. Symmetry. Symmetry is very important. I like to see symmetry. Let's watch a little thing about symmetry.
Do you mind if I ask you a quick question? Excuse me, sir, can I ask you a
To
quick
shed
question?
some light on the visual stimuli that fire up a man's brain cells, we sent a researcher out onto the streets of London to demonstrate a classic psychology experiment. The researcher's mission was to ask men which of these 4 drawings they found most attractive.
Which of these women do you think is most attractive?
The female figures were virtually identical, but the small differences between them are all important.
They're all the same.
No, they're not. There's a slight difference in all of them.
The relationship between the size of the waist and the size of the hips is marginally different in every picture. Sex researchers refer to this relationship as the waist-to-hip ratio.
D.
C. C.
I say A. C.
Any reason why?
She's got curves.
Thank you very much.
In our survey, A won 2 votes, B had none, C attracted 15, and D scored 5. Our result is the same as in the original experiment. A clear majority of men prefer a woman just like Miss C. And Miss C is a woman whose waist is precisely 7/10 the size of her hips. The figure that scientists suggest is the perfect waist-to-hip ratio. With such a ratio, a woman with a 26-inch waist will have 37-inch hips. This information may not seem like much, but it gives us an important insight into what men are looking for in a sexual partner. Women with a waist-to-hip ratio of around 0.7 are thought more likely to bear babies. They find it easier to get pregnant, conceive earlier in life, and have fewer miscarriages. These features, along with well-formed lips, high-defined cheeks, and sizable breasts, are controlled by sex hormones and are called hormonal markers. Biologist Randy Thornhill from the University of New Mexico studies how our bodies display sexual attractiveness.
The human face and body is a collection of signals of symmetry and signals of hormone effects in the body. Male body testosterone, female body estrogen.
Features such as a woman's breasts and fat deposits in her upper cheeks and lips are substantially shaped by bodily levels of the sex hormone estrogen. Secreted primarily by the ovaries, estrogen influences not only the menstrual cycle, but also the development at puberty of a woman's secondary sexual characteristics, including her face and body shape.
Estrogen is a marker of the quality of the female, and that includes a marker of her reproductive capacity. So her ability to bear children successfully is all highly estrogen related in women.
Scientists theorize that men are disproportionately attracted to women whose features indicate healthy hormonal levels because they offer the promise of more easily producing healthy children.
For millions of years, a man needed to mate with a woman who had signs of health and youth and fertility, the kind of woman that could bear him healthy babies.
But it's not just women who display hormonal markers. As a boy reaches puberty, testosterone secreted by the testes promotes the growth of distinctive masculine features, including prominent cheekbones, a strong jaw, and broad shoulders. These masculine features are markers for virility and health. They also appear to be dominant markers, and dominance is associated with male reproductive success in many species, including humans. But sexual attractiveness is transitory. Estrogen levels decline with age, so men who are biologically driven to seek out the most fertile women will be attracted to a youthful appearance. But nowadays, all is not what it seems. It's possible to fool the system by creating hormonal indicator features that nature may not have supplied, or that age may have taken away. In 2004, Americans spent almost $13 billion on cosmetic procedures. 90% of them were women. Dr. Mark Marney is a cosmetic surgeon in what's probably the world's most silicone-enhanced neighborhood, Beverly Hills.
The majority of patients that come to me are fundamentally looking to be more successful in the sexual selection process. Commonly in women, they're going to be looking for procedures that make them look younger. And that, again, is because youth is something that is attractive in the process of sexual selection. And so a younger-looking female is going to naturally be more attractive to any male.
In 2004, plastic surgeons carried out nearly 340,000 breast implants and around 250,000 face and forehead lifts in the US alone. But it's not just women who want to cheat nature in the mating game. In that same year, 1.2 million men had plastic surgery, including 719 pectoral implants.
Things that men look for in plastic surgery are going to be things that make them maybe look more masculine a lot of the time. For example, a chin implant to make the man have a stronger jaw.
The explosion of personal re-engineering could have a serious effect on human attractiveness in the future.
It actually may make the population more unattractive because people with unattractive features can have them changed and consequently be more successful reproductively. So their offspring will still have the genes that carried unattractive features on.
But looks aren't everything, of course, and women more than men seek out other assets.
The primary thing for the woman is going to be hearing. Do they like what they hear? This is why the man works on his line. What is he going to say? What's his pickup line? The Rock's favorite pickup line is, "I'm the tongue wrestling champion of the world. Do you want a shot at the title?" The old one, "If I said you had a good body, would you hold it against me?" You see, this is what the man works on, a line, what he's going to say. Because that's very important to a woman, because a woman is judging character.
For a woman, the ideal mate is more than just a source of fertile sperm. She also seeks more intangible characteristics, such as reliability, loyalty, and kindness, that suggest a man who will be a good husband and a good father for her children. And it's not possible to judge these from looks alone.
For millions of years, a woman couldn't really look at a man and size him up to know whether he would be a good provider and a good protector.
Fisher finds a major clue as to how women weigh up their prospective mates by analyzing the brain scans of her female students. The women in love have more blood racing through the part of the brain called the hippocampus, an area associated with the processing of memory. But what has memory got to do with sexual attraction and a woman's love life? Fisher suggests that women are particularly interested in a man's character, and that they build up a memory map of his behavior in order to determine if he will be a suitable mate and father to their children.
She needed to remember what he did last Valentine's Day, what he promised last Christmas, what he didn't do last summer. She needed to remember to see if he was going to be a good husband and a good father.
And for that, memory is vitally important.
And in fact, that's what women do all the time. We get on the telephone and talk to other women, constantly recounting what he did and didn't do. What we're doing is creating a memory trail of whether this is going to be a good individual to pass on a DNA with.
It makes good evolutionary sense for a woman to mate with a reliable man who will help her raise their children. But women also look for other things in men that will help their offspring succeed, such as status. Status is important in the mating game because wealthy, powerful, dominant men are seen as being able to provide a good life for possible offspring. And they advertise this status with fancy cars and elegant clothes. But status is only part of the story. For humankind to survive and prosper, we need healthy offspring, with healthy genes and healthy immune systems to protect them from disease. So how can you tell if a man or woman you think is attractive will bring a suitable and healthy immune system to the table? Scientists suggest that getting your partner to play a little hot and sweaty sport might help, so you can properly analyze their DNA with your nose.
The nose comes into play very, very solidly, as what we smell helps us to continue a relationship. Now, the man is turned on by what he sees, and he starts into a relationship, and he likes what he feels, the haptic sensation. Women is turned on by what they hear, then they are also turned on by what they feel. The arousal hormones here are in the testosterone, estrogen idea, the male and female hormone, which we all have both, coupled with adrenaline and that instinct that we are starting a relationship, that love type of thing. There's other hormones that work on us that help to trigger different ideas. But now we're in that excitement phase. That excitement phase where people are starting to get excited and the hormones are rushing and that lust/love is developing. And at first it's a lot of lust, and then it develops a little bit differently. But the nose is very, very important. For a woman is trained to like the smell of urine. Yes. Who else is going to change baby? God had to know that the species will be better served if he puts a little desire to like urine into the woman so that women would change baby. Now watch man change baby. Because men don't like urine. Now we're talking about male brain, female brain. That doesn't mean male, female. Because there are certain men, 7 to 10% of them are born with the female brain. Certain women, 7 to 10% of them are born with the male brain. This is about the nature of the brain. One way we can tell. Because the man does not like urine. The man is angered by urine. The woman does like urine. That's why perfume people put a little bit of urine in some of their perfumes, because women are the ones who buy most of the perfume. But urine to the man is an anger mechanism. It triggers him to aggression. He doesn't like urine. That's why the wolves and the different animals of the field, out in the woods, they urinate on their territory. The male does. He does this to attract females and to repel males. This is my territory. I'm the alpha male, and I can defend it. This is what we know. Because it attracts the females, repels the males. The perfume companies put a little bit in there to sell. But they can come home and, oh, hubby, what do you think? Oh, wonderful. Later on, they fight. This is all deep underneath the awareness. Women should not wear perfume with a man that has urine in it. Women should wear that perfume if they're with other women, because they'll love it. On the man, however, the man is turned on by blood. Women don't like blood. Watch a man taking a rabbit home and cleaning it. Watch the woman. Women have the instinct. Women should not be the fighters, because they should be protecting the babies that urinate. But some women are born with that male instinct, and they like it. And here comes the big thing about the gay population, because some men are born with that female brain. Not only did God recognize who's going to clean baby, if you don't have some desire for urine, who's going to suck cock? Because the woman likes to suck cock. Urine's no problem for her. As with the gays. Now, the straight man, who's man, he cannot understand a man wanting to suck cock. Something wrong here. Something's abnormal. And if he wants that man to stand next to him and fight on the line, and that man says, no, I don't really want to fight, I'd rather be decorating. You see? That's where the conflict comes in. And especially if there's a man who was born with the female brain, he's been told all his life he should not like cock, but he secretly inside does. Now the big conflict, and this will become the leading homophobic person. The guy who makes that extra couple of homosexual jokes, laughs very loud at the homosexual jokes, and has to laugh at every homosexual he possibly sees. If you've been laughing at me, maybe a little too much, it's because inside you're a latent homosexual. You might have a brain that you really like cock, and you're just afraid to admit it. You might not even know it, be deep inside you, and set up a conflict. Suppression, repression, because these things happen. Let's look more.
Evolution has driven men and women to behave in different ways in order to maximize their chances of winning a mate. But once again, behavior is only part of the story. Scientists are now conducting new experiments to decipher more and more of the coded signals our bodies send out to attract a sexual partner. Signals that contain hidden information about the type and quality of the immune system we may pass on to our children. Signals that we can read in an instant. Randy Thornhill believes that we interpret these signals in milliseconds without even knowing we're doing it.
Our awareness is just, this person is more attractive than that person, when in fact we're doing very sophisticated calculations that are going on in our heads, and all this is done very unconsciously and very quickly.
He believes that the human nose is one of the best tools we have for deciphering secret messages of sexual attraction from the opposite sex. To illustrate this, Thornhill gets some students to wear identical, freshly laundered white shirts during a game of basketball. As the players perspire, their shirts absorb sweat which contains pheromones, odorless airborne molecules exuded from the sweat glands of both men and women. Pheromones have long been thought to be involved in attracting the opposite sex. But Thornhill has discovered that they play a far more complex role and convey far more complex information than previously believed. In this laboratory, Thornhill asks a group of female biology students to put their sense of smell to the test.
The women will smell these shirts worn by each man and rate them for sexiness, pleasantness, and intensity.
The women have no idea which shirt belongs to which athlete. They take each shirt in turn, sniff and consider its scent, and write down which they like best. Based on nothing more than smell, the girls decide which shirts they find most pleasant and most sexy. Thornhill then analyzes the immune systems of the male and female volunteers by studying the major histocompatibility complex, or MHC, a group of genes that plays an important role in the body's defense system. And he discovers that the women students prefer the smell of men with a dissimilar MHC, thus favoring males whose immune systems differ from their own.
The general pattern is that both men and women like the body scent of individuals who are dissimilar, who are different from them.
This makes good evolutionary sense. The immune system helps fight off disease, and how good it is depends on the genes. So people who inherit a range of genes have an advantage.
Because diseases evolve very, very quickly, you need genetic variation in the offspring to get the right genetic combination to cope with the currently prevalent diseases.
For the perfect match, lovers should have immune system capabilities that differ from each other. This means their babies get the best of the mix, a diversity that gives them a better chance of a healthy life. Human beings, just like the girls in Thornhill's study, are able to pick suitable genetic mates just with their noses. Thornhill's experiments back up earlier European studies that showed pheromones subconsciously reveal the body's defense secrets to others, although no one yet understands exactly how this works. But our noses can detect more than just different genes. They can also detect symmetry. It may seem bizarre, but women prefer the smell of men who are more symmetrical.
More symmetric men smell better to women, specifically to women who are at the fertile phase of the menstrual cycle.
The fact that symmetry attracts the opposite sex is nothing new. It was first noted by researchers in the 1990s and has proved a popular topic for the media ever since. The original symmetry studies measured a series of faces to determine how symmetrical they were, then asked people to rate the faces in order of attractiveness. Thornhill demonstrates this test with a biology class of 2005.
Rate the attractiveness of some male faces, with 10 being most attractive and 1 being least attractive.
Well, I would rate this first individual as about a 3 or a 4. I think the second picture is a lot more attractive than the first. I'd rate him more as a 4 or 5.
I'd say the girl on the left's about a 3, and the girl on the right's a little more attractive. I'd give her about a 6 to 6.5.
I guess the one on the left I'd put at about a 4, and the one on the right a 6.
Like the earlier studies, the faces people thought most attractive were consistently those that were most symmetrical. What's strange is that if a face is completely symmetrical, like these created by making a mirror image of one side of the face, the result is unnatural. Perfect symmetry is unattractive. But scientists have a theory about why we find symmetrical faces appealing.
Symmetry is a reliable signal of quality because symmetry is very, very difficult to get right. And hence, symmetry is a marker of the quality of the individual to develop perfect bilateral symmetry.
Recent research from 2004 discovered that our faces reveal hidden clues about our quality as prospective partners. Just like pheromones, Our faces also display information about our immune systems. In the study, women selected pictures of men they found most attractive. When they analyzed the blood from the men, they found that the men chosen as the most attractive had a greater variety of genes and hence a stronger immune system. No one quite knows how our faces convey this information. It's possible that people with a good immune system are less prone to diseases and parasites, the sort of things that might lead to asymmetrical features when we're developing. But whatever the answer, our symmetrical looks, it seems, are the shop window in which we advertise the strength of our genes.
The evolutionary process over the last several million years has put into our brains psychological mechanisms that function to assess health of others. And we interpret that as attractiveness of others. And that attractiveness corresponds with these health markers, the symmetry, clear skin.
Symmetry appears to be so important that the female body even performs tricks to appear more symmetrical. In a simple experiment at the University of Liverpool, biologists measured the hands and ears of women before, during, and after ovulation. And they discovered that 24 hours before ovulation, the women's hands and ears altered shape to become more symmetrical. Scientists are not sure how this happens, but they think it's due to changes in water retention in the cells of the hands and ears. Because these changes are not the same on both sides of the body, they have the effect of altering the woman's symmetry. And this could be perceived by males as a sudden increase in attractiveness. But once we've found our future mate, there remains a further mystery, one that perplexes countless men and women every day. How do we persuade them to take an interest in us? It turns out that science can lend a hand by improving your chances of winning in the great mating game with practical, scientific tips that can make you more attractive to the opposite sex. Our range of possible sexual partners and long-term mates is phenomenal. Every day we pass hundreds of people, any one of whom could turn out to be the perfect partner. Anthropologist Helen Fisher studies the science of how we choose our lovers, seeking to understand what amazing process of biology makes us fall in love with someone else, and then keeps us together long enough to have children. She's broken down this process of sexual attraction into 3 stages: lust, romantic love, and attachment. Each of these 3 sexual drives comes with its own biochemical trigger, one or more hormonal messengers carrying information from one cell to another. In fact, science now recognizes that a powerful arsenal of chemicals manipulates our decisions without us ever realizing what's happening. Lust is driven by the hormone testosterone. Men produce it in their testes and women in their ovaries. It travels through the blood to the brain and stimulates the sex drive. It's what drives someone on their first tentative steps towards having sex, seeking their very first date.
Testosterone is the primary active agent that really drives the start of lust, male and female. In both, because the female will make testosterone in her ovaries as well as the adrenal, and said a little extra testosterone, and that excitement factor can stimulate testosterone. And of course there are certain foods very rich in testosterone, foods that I've learned have aphrodisiac qualities. By blending these into a different compound, I made what I called the libido liquescence. I took the entire world to study different ideas of sexual arousal. And this is largely how we found some of the secrets of Viagra. There's a horned toad in Colorado that has a compound that he sends out that drives the coyote into incredible sexual arousal and forgets about eating the toad. So some of that horny toad idea came out in this poison this low-level poison that used homeopathically could have effects. And I used it for the first time in Denver to tell you a story. This young boy came to me, and he was very virile, but he was very insecure. And he said he needed a relaxant. He came to our pharmacy, and he needed a relaxant because his girlfriend was coming on Saturday night. And I said, I got something better for you. Try this new libido liquescence. I blended all of the different compounds around the world that have knowing aphrodisiac effects herbally into a compound. Very exciting. So he said, he would try it. And I said, well, you mix a little bit in her wine, you take a little bit in your wine, because it was a concentrate, you had to mix it. And then when she comes, you give her the wine, and everything's fine. And you tell me how it works. Well, he came back on Monday morning, and he said he needed some liniment. Came to the pharmacy, he needed some liniment. And I said, oh, for your back, too much sex. He says, no, it's for my arm. She didn't show up. So, true story.
Social psychologist Art Aron studies how sexual attraction can be heightened by feelings of fear and anxiety.
When it comes to initial intense attraction, you experience intense physiological arousal. Your heart beats fast, as would happen if you were running or if something tense or exciting had happened.
These feelings are similar to those caused by fear. Aron's research suggests that fear and anxiety can initiate feelings of sexual attraction and even make people appear more attractive. Aron puts this theory to the test by conducting some high-level research. A wobbly suspension bridge provides the perfect location for the experiment. A female researcher stands in the middle of the bridge, a spot chosen as likely to induce a rush of excitement or fear. She then stops passing men and asks them to complete a questionnaire. The questions are not particularly special, but at the end of the interview, she hands each man her phone number in case they have any further questions about the study.
Thanks so much.
In the second stage of the experiment, the researcher changes locations, this time to a low, solid, and perfectly safe bridge. Again, she asks passing men to answer the questionnaire. And again, at the end of the interview, she gives them her phone number. The next day, back in the office, she waits by the phone. She keeps a log of which men call her and on which bridge they had met. The demonstration appears to support the excitement hypothesis. 4 times more men from the scarier suspension bridge call than from the safe and solid bridge. Fear makes the woman more sexually attractive to the men. So instead of a romantic meal, perhaps the best place for the first date is somewhere really frightening. Evolutionary psychologist Jeffrey Miller researches how sexual selection influences humankind's levels of intelligence.
The funny thing about sexual selection is it's a very powerful evolutionary process, but it's not blind, dumb, natural selection. It's driven by our tastes, our pleasure, what we find attractive psychologically and physically about other people.
Hundreds of thousands of years ago, humans started to select partners who were more intelligent, and as a result, intelligence began to grow in our species.
We don't just grow brain for survival, we grow brain to attract other brains as mates.
The evidence that our brain evolved by sexual selection comes from something biologists call the handicap principle. The peacock's tail is the classic example. Such a large, colorful tail takes energy to grow, demanding resources that could otherwise be put to survival. It's a handicap, and so only birds with the best genes can carry the biggest, most glamorous tails. Like the peacock's tail, a bigger brain carries a handicap because it uses a disproportionate amount of the body's energy. It consumes about 20% of the oxygen we breathe about 25% of our calories, and about 40% of our glucose.
It's a kind of costly, conspicuous, wasteful organ. And in that sense, I think of it as kind of being like a luxury good. And often we're using it for things that aren't that directly related to survival. We're talking. We're trying to achieve status. We're trying to impress people.
Miller argues that human intelligence and creativity are the result of our long history of sexual selection. Our creative imagination, which has produced the rich variety of language, music, art, and science we see today, was forged hundreds of thousands of years ago by our ancestors choosing more intelligent, witty, and entertaining partners. And when we choose partners, the choices we make will shape the creativity of future generations.
Intelligence helps to show that you've got good genes, because there again, any kind of mutations that tend to reduce brain efficiency tend to reduce intelligence.
You know?
But it's not just intelligence that seems to attract us. It's creative thought. A recent report from the Royal Society of Biological Sciences found that many artists and poets have twice as many sexual partners as non-creative people. The study backs up Miller's theory that artists like Picasso are more sexually attractive because of their creativity. But it's another trait that comes out on top as Miller's #1 tip for winning over potential partners.
Top two traits most desired across cultures are intelligence and kindness. In fact, kindness even comes out a little bit higher than intelligence.
Kindness has obvious attractions. A kind person will make a good partner and will probably be a caring parent. But there's a more scientific reason for choosing someone with moral virtue. It's an indicator of good genes.
Moral virtue is costly, it's difficult. Almost anything that messes up your body or your brain, mutations, brain damage, brain injury, tends to make people more selfish and less kind.
What's more, unlike physical attributes, this type of attractiveness is hard to fake.
It's fairly easy to get your body looking pretty good. A 40-year-old now can look as youthful and healthy as a 22-year-old a century ago. To some extent, it's harder to fake the intelligence and moral virtues like kindness that are sexually attractive. That's what's fascinating about the way that we evaluate potential mates, is we just automatically focus on the unfakeable indicators of intelligence and kindness.
Over the course of a few dates, this couple have engineered ways to show off their genetic gifts to each other. Some displays are more subtle than others, but neither of them has a clue about what's going on inside their heads. They say when you fall in love, your eyes light up, but so do parts of your brain. And some scientists are now busy exploring the neurochemical fireworks display that explodes in your head when animal sexual attraction transforms into love. What are the secrets of sexual attraction? The reasons why we think someone's hot? Science has established that evolutionary cues kickstart the body into lustful behavior. We're turned on by body shape, symmetry, and intelligence. We're drawn to someone and hope they respond to our advances. But we don't just mate with anyone. Usually our brains make us focus our attention on one individual. What fuels this passion for one person is the second of Helen Fisher's 3 mating drives. Romantic love, that potent feeling of ecstasy.
Love has always been the preserve of poets and songwriters and novelists. But I came some time ago to realize that this is one of the most powerful human feelings on earth.
Romantic love is not a fanciful notion. It's scientifically measurable, the result of nature's biological alchemy. Social psychologist Art Aron and anthropologist Helen Fisher have joined forces in a unique scientific study. Their mission is to explore the chemistry of love, to map the hormones of desire within the architecture of the brain. Fisher believes that romantic love is the second stage of sexual attraction, moving the relationship on to something deeper. If you've ever been in love, you know what an overpowering emotion it can be.
You feel elation, euphoria, mood swings. You're very dependent on the person. You focus your attention on them. You're highly motivated to win them. You crave the person. You become obsessed with thinking about them.
Fisher and Aaron are eager to discover if these feelings of romantic love are different from feelings of sexual arousal. To find out, they analyze their fMRI data showing blood flow through the brains of students who confess to being deeply in love. They discover that a region of the brain known as the caudate nucleus appears to be activated when a person falls in love. The caudate is part of the brain's complex reward system, and it appears that being in love affects the brain in much the same way as using certain stimulant drugs.
The response we see in the brain when a person looks at their beloved, who is intensely, passionately in love with them, is very much like the response to having cocaine.
The brain areas concerned have a high concentration of receptors for the hormone dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter involved in the control of fine motor coordination, motivation, physical energy, short-term memory, and emotions such as sexual desire.
Dopamine is a hormone that comes in, and it's an action hormone. If people that have trouble with moving, they have trouble with dopamine, because it's something that helps you to initiate action. If we look at a little cut from the Awakenings movie, we can see how some catatonics were helped. Robin Williams helped these people by giving them some dopamine. Well, Robin Williams' character helped them. That comes from a true story. Dopamine also helps us in that romantic love. Coupled with oxytocin. Oxytocin is a bonding hormone, released through the eyes. Very strong connection with the eyes. When the baby comes out and makes eye contact with the mother, oxytocin is released. Oxytocin is very similar to, but not exactly the same, but it's similar to chocolate. Some people say that they get a little high, that's why chocolate's used in Valentine's Day, because that bonding. I found that couples who lose interest, and I can re-establish that oxytocin with 33 minutes of looking into the eyes. I tell them, don't talk, don't say anything, but for 33 minutes, just look into each other's eyes. For 33 minutes, and if the man or the woman does not want to have 33 minutes, if they don't have time, they got to watch Gilligan's Island or whatever, then I say, well, get divorced. But 33 minutes will establish a rebonding. It will pump out oxytocin. And many relationships can be saved. Many relationships have been saved that I've helped, because I've told them, just that 33 minutes. It initiates a chemical bonding again through the oxytocin and the dopamine. Very powerful factors to help stabilize our emotions. 33 minutes. Save your relationship.
Dopamine is one of the body's primary feel-good chemicals.
Elevated levels of dopamine produce extremely focused attention and unwavering motivation, the very characteristics of romantic love.
It's what we call a reward response, a dopamine system response. Human beings seem to be wired to have a particular response to very intense reward. And one of the great examples is falling in love and having it reciprocated.
Heightened dopamine levels explain why love-struck men and women become so dependent on their relationships and why they crave to be with their partners. For Fisher, this desire to focus on just one individual makes perfect evolutionary sense.
His brain system evolved to become triggered, and so that you could have an incredible amount of energy, focus your attention on somebody, be highly motivated to win them, and stay together at least long enough to conceive a child.
The somewhat unromantic truth is that romantic love is born out of the evolutionary success of couples wanting enough sex with each other to get the female pregnant. The chemicals flooding our brains during the early stages of love are so powerful that it's little wonder love is frequently compared to an addiction. And just like the craving for a drug, love can make people do crazy, sometimes dangerous things.
And it's more powerful than the sex drive. I mean, if you ask somebody to go to bed with you and they reject you, you don't kill yourself. People kill themselves or kill somebody else if they are rejected in love.
Romantic love remains a universal experience, deeply woven into the fabric of the human brain.
Everywhere in the world, people live for love, die for love, sing for love, dance for love, are happy in love.
But Fisher doesn't think that dopamine-fueled romantic love on its own can keep couples together for long.
Romantic love is very metabolically expensive. I mean, you walk all night, you talk till dawn, you make love to the person till noon. It would be very unadaptive for the human animal to be going constantly in a state of high energy.
Our success as a species depends on men and women sticking together long enough to raise their young. To try and make sure this happens, our bodies bombard our brains with yet more sexual hormones, a chemical arsenal that keeps us together long after the fire of romantic love has finally flickered out. And this brings us to one of the most provocative questions in evolutionary science. Can we be faithful to one partner? Or are we biologically predestined to cheat? A study of nature's secret weapons of love shows how we're genetically programmed to react instantly to the possibilities of a lustful sexual adventure, and how our brains feed us a heady brew of powerful drugs to induce the ecstasy of falling in love. But once we've chosen our mate and fallen in love, can we stay together? Or are humans biologically programmed to cheat? 97% of all mammals are not monogamous. So how can we stay together in the face of so many options? Gian Gonzaga is a psychologist at UCLA in Southern California, and his studies show that true love really can bind people together in a monogamous relationship.
I think that evolution has given us the capacity to be committed, but it's complicated because it's not just we either are a species that commits or a species that philanders. We're a species that has the ability to do both because we react to the environment that we're in.
He's conducted a groundbreaking study to discover why humans stick with their partners rather than go off with any number of attractive alternatives.
So we wanted to directly test whether or not love, rather than other states like desire, is going to help you push thoughts of attractive alternatives out of your mind.
Gonzaga tests college students who are in relationships. He asks them each to choose a picture of someone they find very attractive. Then he asks them to write an essay while thinking of their own partner in a lustful way. They're instructed that each time they think of the person in the picture, they should put a tick in the margin. He then asks the students to write another essay, this time thinking of their own partner in a loving way. Again, they put a tick in the margin each time they think of the person in the picture. This time, there are far fewer ticks. The students don't feel any lasting attraction to the people in the pictures, and they quickly forget about them.
In the love condition, people could push the thoughts out of their mind, and they wouldn't get this flood of thoughts of attractive alternatives.
What this shows is that true love does seem to bind us together. Real love, that is. But it's in a constant battle with the emotions of lust or desire.
Desire is a tricky thing because some of the evidence that we have shows that desire, even when it's pointed towards your romantic partner, can make you less committed to them. So part of its function may be search in the environment for the most attractive alternative that is out there. If there's somebody who's more attractive out there, that may bode poorly for your current relationship.
So if the relationship is built on love, we are more likely to stick together. And if it's built on desire, then we're more likely to want to have sex with an attractive other. It appears that love has evolved to keep us together, while lust is there to help us choose the fittest genes.
So it looks like love, but not desire, is the thing that helps you get rid of this problem in committing attractive alternatives and helps you solidify commitment to your romantic partner.
It all fits in with Helen Fisher's belief that the third stage of sexual attraction is long-term attachment.
Attachment is a sense of calm and security that you can feel with a long-term partner.
Love, it would appear, does conquer all. But how does it do it? The answer is that the body has a natural love potion ready to stick you and your partner together like glue. And it comes into play when a couple has sex. This chemical is called oxytocin, a hormone and neurotransmitter produced in the brain. It was once believed to confine its effects to inducing labor in pregnant women and stimulating mothers to produce milk. But now scientists are discovering other far-reaching effects on both women and men. Oxytocin acts as a sexual arousal hormone that signals orgasm and prompts cuddling between lovers before, during, and after intercourse. Hence its other name, the cuddling chemical.
This is why when you make love to somebody who you really do like or love, you can feel a sense of cosmic union with them. That's probably because you've elevated levels of oxytocin, creating this sense of attachment.
It may also serve to strengthen the bond between lovers. The theory goes that the more sex a couple has with each other, the more oxytocin is released, and the deeper their bond becomes.
This is why it's a little dangerous to go copulate with somebody you don't really like. In fact, I recommend to my various students, don't copulate with somebody who you don't want to fall in love with, because you might just trigger these brain systems. It is playing with fire.
But nature isn't finished yet. There's one last important drug in the pharmacy of love: vasopressin. Released during sex, it has a critical role in the long-term commitment stage, a role discovered when scientists explored the mating habits of the prairie vole. Prairie voles are among the mere 3% of mammals that mate for life. Vasopressin is released when the prairie vole mates, just as it is in humans. The prairie vole has receptors in its brain for vasopressin in the regions responsible for reward. Mating stimulates its brain's reward center and forms a pleasurable memory of that particular mate, and so forms a bond. Scientists argue that the reward mechanism involved in this addiction may well have evolved in a similar way in other monogamous animals, humans included. It could be that, like desire and romantic love, forming a lasting, loving relationship is simply a matter of chemistry. Sexual attraction exhilarates and motivates us. The chemicals that flood our brain and our very physiology all serve one purpose: the continuation of our species. Then, once we have children, these chemicals alter to encourage us to stay together and raise them. Love is just a part of it. Sexiness, desire, call it what you will, is distilled from an intoxicating hormonal mix designed to encourage human reproduction. A chemical cocktail that really does make the world go around.
So we've gone through a whole different idea about different motions in the body and different hormones at work. These hormones are electrical, electromagnetic, and they have voltammetric signatures. And the electrons don't touch. There's electromagnetic fields that are acting. And it isn't just in the electricity, but there's also chemicals coming out that make these things work. So this idea, we've explored many different ideas of the sexuality and the links and etc. And how that works. All the different ideas of the connectivity, the emotions of the human. Some of the emotions that make us who and what we are. So in this section of anatomy, I hope that you've learned a little bit about how to help people and how to help yourself and how to understand. This is Dr. Desiree Dubonnet signing off.